Anything.
6 minutes in front of the hour.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text ALL to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text ALL to 321-321. That's ALL to 321-321.
Philip here with Henderson Implement to tell you that outstanding capacity, innovation, and the industry's highest density come together in a New Holland roll belt round baler, available from Henderson Implement in Columbia or Fulton. Whether you make 4x5, 4x6, or 5x6 foot bales, there's a roll belt right for you. All models feature wide, durable pickups and smooth feeding systems for faster baling. Integrated precision solutions help you make smarter baling decisions on the go. Stop by Henderson Implement in Columbia or Fulton today, or visit us at hendersonimp.com.
Water can ruin your whole world, not just your floors and your furniture. You can also lose precious memories of family and friends. That's why ServiceMaster of Columbia moves swiftly, because it's not just about fixing damage after a water disaster. It's about restoring comfort and making your home better than it was before.
Hi, this is Adam Kinzer, the Master of Disaster and Recovery with ServiceMaster of Columbia. Call the man in the yellow van at 443-8383 or check us out at servicemasterofcolumbia.com.
Dr. Randy Tobler for Body of Health Direct Primary Care. You know, it's one of the joys of my life to spend time with patients that the regular, I call it turnstile medicine system, just didn't allow. And I think our patients appreciate it too. In fact, the results are proving the same. With Helene's nutritional coaching and culinary expertise, they're changing their nutrition. And as she likes to say, it's so true. Food is medicine. Learn about healthcare the way it ought to be at bodyofhealth.com.
It's nothing new that Play It Again Sports buys, sells, and trades new and used. It's baseball and softball season, which means whether used or new, the bats, balls, gloves, pants, socks, and shoes will be new to you. See, Play It Again takes them in used, but only if they still look new, not used. Even though they're used, but like new and new to you. New to used. Used new and new used. Play It Again Sports. New and used. Newsed. Think of them first so you don't finish last. Play it again, sportscolumbiamo.com.
Join Wake Up Missouri this morning at 6. Now back to Gordon Deal on 93.9 The Eagle.
Thanks for being with us. Workers from the Pittsburgh International Airport's maintenance department spent hours searching for and eventually finding a diamond that fell from a traveler's ring on the baggage carousel. UPI
This is Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News team, and your host, Randy Tobler.
Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the 6-3 majority, said Tennessee's law passes constitutional muster. Quote, "Our role is not to judge the wisdom, fairness, or logic of the law before us, but only to ensure that it does not violate the equal protection guarantee of the 14th Amendment. Having concluded it does not, we leave questions regarding its policy to the people, their elected representatives, and the democratic process."
Well, there it is. The Supreme Court with a major decision yesterday in this issue that does affect Missourians and protects virally infected, socially virally infected, psychologically disturbed children who think that they're something other than what they were born as. And it will protect them from making decisions which I think they will later regret in many, many cases. Court comes down in the case of letting the states decide whether or not they're going to allow the mutilation, the puberty blocking of children. Yesterday in a big decision. I'm Randy Tobler, in for Stephanie Helene Tobler, no relation, and John Marsh there, and Drake Whitman as well.
No relation. No relation. Only 44 years almost of relation, but that's okay.
I know. I stole the cradle. What can I say? And hopefully you're following us on. Now I want everyone to follow us this morning on Facebook and not. Are we still on YouTube or have I succeeded?
Yeah, YouTube.
Oh, I've been trying to throw us off. No success yet? I've been trying.
Yeah, you've been trying.
I'll try again. No Rumble? We on Rumble?
No, we're not. Actually, YouTube's lax their rules now. Yeah, they have. They saw where the puck's going, and they're kind of just backing off of all that crazy
Okay,
stuff.
good. John Marsh, Drake Whitman. Lots
going
on.
Truth Social? Is he on Truth Social?
We should be. That's an investment we need to make.
We should.
Yeah, well, I'll do the Truth Social. It doesn't cost me anything. I'm not going to do it. They're trying to sell something else. That some upper, but beside the phone and the phone plan. I don't know.
I don't understand. I just don't understand the marketing that Trump. They're brilliant, making a lot of money. Well, brilliant on that respect.
Speaking of marketing, we're going to be talking with Josh Ryan, who is a perennial, it seems like, award winner at the major award ceremony, the Mercury
All the
Award.
funny commercials you have here on the air, on whatever station you're listening to, Josh has a hand in them.
That's right. And the leader of our creative department there. And so Josh will be in at 8:35 because we can already just say he's a winner. I mean, he is a winner on many levels and a great human being as well. So we'll that'll be a little different twist to our winners and losers. Don't forget to have those ready for your pleasure and your contribution to the program. But you can contribute to the program all morning. Just write a check to Drake Whitman. Your address, Drake? No. 573-874-9390. He's a starving young college student. He can't even afford to take a girl out on a date. Contribute to Drake's success. No, you.
Yeah, my GoFundMe for dates. I like it.
There you go.
And we continue to. Everyone is really sitting at the edge of their chairs trying to figure out what's going on with the Israel-Iran conflict. Donald Trump yesterday teasing the media, well, no one knows what I'm going to do. Yeah, I've been saying for 15 years, no matter what it takes, Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon. Ayatollah is in hiding somewhere, right? And
still talking tough.
Yeah, tweeting. It's hilarious to see this old guy in a turban, whatever, in his mullah outfit, with doing the texting thing. I can't imagine he's really doing the texting. I'm not even sure if Donald Trump really does those texts. You remember, we saw this. There were videos around the time of the election and after where they're showing him watching the election and having his social media gal next to him and talking, and they're all watching and they're strategizing, and she's tweeting out. Okay. So I don't know whether he's actually pushing the buttons or not. Do we know that?
Yeah, he could be dictating it to her. Donald Trump. I wouldn't put it past him.
Well, he is a dictator.
Okay, here's what I want.
Yeah, he is a dictator after all. That's what the Democrats
of course.
say. So.
Yeah, so I worked with some people who knew some people that were in that social media area for Trump's campaign, and they said something along the lines of, with Trump tweeting, we can't really control it, but we do the kind of more moderate stuff. Like if something happens, they're quick to type something up and get the approval from the big man. Okay. But all of the crazy tweets that you'll wake up to, that's him.
Really?
Him alone.
It reads, it reads like him, don't they?
Well, that's good. Good for him. That's good. I mean, because they are high impact tweets, no doubt about it. And I have some scathing. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, wake up, family. Helene, you can attest to this. Last night, what time did I roll into bed? Around 11 o'clock again?
Yes.
Again.
Yeah, again.
I have to comb the world. I have to do the research that brings these under-the-cover, backwoods, between-the-lines, deep reporting for you. I saw this thing now that I've been. What is it? I've just been so fooled by media, by the AI and the memes and the stuff that I thought was real isn't real so often. So I saw this thing, and I'll play it at 6:35. We'll do this, but I saw this thing on X that. But remember when Scott Bessent was testifying at the Ways and Means Committee the other day, and remember he got girl-splained, right?
Yes.
First, Linda Sanchez said. Because he would interrupt when she was making false statements about inflation, and they were giving inflation numbers that were like in February when egg prices were still high, excuse me, I know that you like to speak over me because I'm a woman, but this is my time. Okay, so and then this Representative Plaskett, who's from the U.S. Virgin Islands, and she's not even a voting member of Congress, but she condescending.
Yes.
This is our house. Her. This is our house. Ugh. When you come to our house, you don't speak. You don't interrupt me, sir. You will, finger wagging at him. I found some stuff that happened when he got a chance to answer. And I will play that for you at 6:35. But I wasn't sure if it was true.
Was it AI or was it not AI?
Well, I'll explain. And I have some. So I had some audio visual. Where'd the audio visual go? Oh yeah, here. So I got some audio visual. This little device, little medical device. I will later on in the show explain what this is, and explain how I think we could probably save a lot of money in the healthcare system, reduce your costs, if only they gave you the freedom to not be nannied by a nanny state led by plaintiffs' attorneys and a broken tort system. So that's the plaintiffs. You see all these signs up and down the highway. If you get injured, call 911 wreck or something. Well, I really got a burr under my saddle. We're not quite to. What does Gary call it? Frost my buns Friday. What are we going to call this? I don't know. Thuggery of the tort system Thursday. But we'll do that a little later. We'll talk about that, and then we got Steve Bucci now. We got to ask Steve Bucci, our national security expert, military, the Special Forces guy, Lieutenant Colonel retired, Steve Bucci, and he's going to. I hope he can help us unpack some of the thought process that may be going on at the White House. Think about the multiple spurs out of this decision.
Right.
We talked about it yesterday, John Marsh. If you drop a bunker buster into the Fodor. Right? What's it called? Frodo? No, Frodo. That was out of Harry Potter.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Wrong story.
But that big nuclear installation, then you're going to spread nuclear dust, right? So that's one concern.
Fordo. Yeah,
I like Frodo. But Fordo. Okay, Fordo. But then there's other regional issues. Remember, Iran has said that they're going to strike the Americans if the Americans become involved in this in an offensive way, right? We're now involved defensively, right?
Right.
So if you're in Qatar, where Trump visited, and we have the biggest base in the Middle East. If you're in Saudi Arabia, I think we've got a base there. Don't we have them? We've got several in Iraq, right, John?
Iraq, and we're still in Syria to a degree.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now, is Trump or is Hegseth and Rubio, are they contacting the leaders there saying, hey, heads up, what happens? Are you prepared to sort of help protect us and defend our bases, our people, if we drop a bomb on Iran and then they come after our bases? Because they will.
Right.
So this isn't just a matter of do we drop a bomb and bring the B-2 back to Whiteman? Doesn't it take off from Whiteman?
Yes.
Yeah. So, there's more to this strategery, as W would call it. And I want to talk to Colonel Bucci about that. Because this is not as simple as it sounds. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing to drop your bunker buster and do whatever you do there, but then the first time one American is taken out by the Iranians, do we just, ahead of the fact, decide, look, we're gonna withstand that and we're not going to let 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 casualties? What's the threshold after a counterattack by Iran that we say, all right, that's it.
Right.
And then we're in. That, to me, that would be, if I was Trump, that'd be the way I'd be thinking. But I'm not, no one can think like Trump does. But you know what I mean? John, what are your thoughts about this whole thing as far as the analysis?
I kind of tend to agree. There's a lot more to it. We heard from Bob Onder yesterday. Congressman Onder said when we asked him point blank, should we attack Iran, he said no.
That was interesting.
He said back to the peace table, but he did not favor the military strike like the president is hinting.
So, John, I cannot repeat what your text says. Oh, my goodness. Okay. I'm glad this text remains private and is not.
It's not a text from me. It's from a listener, John.
No, it's a listener, John. We're trying to frost my buns Friday and tort system thuggery Thursday. No, John. Okay, this is for when Drake and John and Randy are at the bar having a beer. Okay.
Is there any attempt to paraphrase or not even going there? Huh?
No, not even going to go there. Not going to. You see this, Helene? Look at what he said. Oh, no, we're not going to go there, right?
No.
That's not Helene approved?
No,
we're not going to go there.
No.
I think they'd get us thrown off the air.
Don't think so.
573-874-9390 on Wake Up Missouri. And Steve Bucci, Josh Ryan, Wake Up Family at 8:35. Don't forget, winners and losers. When we come back, John with the Daily DC Rundown.
You're listening to Wake Up Missouri.
surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it. I give up. No more. Maybe you could call it the ultimate ultimatum, right?
이런 날 먹을 time.
Today, Ayatollah. There you go. It's Donald Trump versus the Ayatollah. Here's John Marsh with the Daily DC Rundown.
Yep, lawmakers debating what role Congress will play as the White House weighs its options in Iran. Do they have the sole power to declare war, or should that power be ceded to the president? Back and forth comes as Donald Trump mulls whether to join Israel in the campaign or return to the negotiating table. Representative Thomas Massey of Kentucky, the conservative who refused to sign on to the big beautiful bill, is building what they call an unlikely bipartisan coalition of lawmakers resisting the U.S. involvement in the conflict with Iran. The bill that picked up 27 co-sponsors. Wait for it, Progressive Squad members, AOC and Ilhan Omar. Imagine that.
What a surprise.
And like we said earlier, Supreme Court ruled Wednesday Tennessee law banning specific transgender medical treatments for adolescents in the state is not discriminatory. They said the law prohibits states from allowing medical providers to provide puberty blockers and hormones to facilitate a minor's transition. So we'll see where that one goes, but they pretty much ruled, so they have the say.
Jen Bukowski's going to be in tomorrow for Stephanie. Helene's in today. We'll ask her about some of the details of that, because I guess the way I read the ruling, Helene, Drake, was that they're not one of the official protected classes. But which is interesting, because I guess couldn't you argue, if you're looking devil's advocate-wise, that, they think they're something else, therefore aren't they a different gender according to their feeling, therefore their wishes should be honored? I don't know. I'm going to have to understand what the inside reasoning was.
Yeah, back to the whole debate over interpreting the 14th Amendment. It wasn't intended for any of this. It was intended for the slaves.
That's right. Look, to me, though, the headline out of this is, I think Justice Roberts basically said, let the states and the people decide.
Right.
We're nine people in robes are not going to make this very monumental decision.
Yes.
Sort of along the same lines they did with the Dobbs decision in Roe, right? I mean, we're not going to talk about the merits of the matter. That's not our place. He's decentralizing decision-making, which for me is all right.
Yeah.
Roberts is finally getting things right. If only he'd have been thinking that way during Obamacare.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, they were debating, and I think there were 3 dissenters, but they were debating, like you said, the equal protection clause that's included in the 14th Amendment.
Yeah. Do those women have children? Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they do.
If you have children, and if you've raised children, and if you've witnessed their confusion, and look, we were all there one time when we were like tweens and teens,
right?
Without details, we can tell you our kids had some confusion. What am I? Yeah. Where am I in the life? Drake, just a few short years ago.
I was a liberal when in 2016. My grandma told me that Trump was going to start the nuclear holocaust or whatever, and I believed it.
Yeah.
And for like a solid year and a half, I went from like the most lefty liberal you could know of to a staunch Republican.
Yeah.
Because then I started looking at it.
Okay, yeah, right.
But like I had a time where if you only met me then, you'd think I'd be a liberal.
Okay, so what about personally, though, especially with young girls?
As far as protected class, kids, their brain is not together yet. Yeah. Boys and girls, they're just not, and it's our job as parents, older people, to take care of them until they're to the point where their brain has some capacity. It's like 22 for girls and
26,
probably 30 for boys. I'm sorry.
You've told me that sometimes you think it never happens.
I'm
but
sorry.
That's
boys just don't mature as quickly.
We'll talk about that off the air. But
gee whiz, come on.
You have a bad sample size here of maturity in boys.
But then you have these parents that actually say, well, what do you think? You're confused. What do you think? Let's get, of course, the kid will say, well, yeah, that'll be the solution. Well, no, there's no solution to being a teenager. It's very painful. You're just going to have to go through the pain, not through transgender changes. Sorry.
There you go. That's right. I mean, parents should protect children,
Yes.
right? Not be complicit with their
No.
self-destruction.
Are suggestive,
Yeah.
so it'll be good for you.
All right. Well, there it is. Got to honor the Helene. Don't
No,
mess
I'm
with her.
really, I'm a mom first, forevermore.
They did name a hurricane after her for all. I'm just saying. We'll be back with more after this. Stay tuned.
Has America been fair to
And in this house...
All right, so welcome back into Wake Up Missouri. I'm Randy Tobler along with wife Helene, in for Stephanie Bell today. Is out on assignment. And John Marsh holding forth as well. Boy, did we have rain yesterday. Man.
Oh.
And Drake Whitman. John, were there any like local flooding events? I mean, it just kept raining and raining and raining the last 24 to 36 hours. No?
It was spotty, though.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I mean,
it was very spotty.
I tell you, the other day when I was coming back home from Macon, I had to pull over the side of the road. I mean, and I had other people tell me, well, Drake, you said coming in yesterday morning it was awful.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible because that top 3 worst rain that I've ever drove in, and one of them wasn't that bad because I didn't have windshield wipers at the time, but it was terrible going north on 63 from Jeff.
Yeah.
It was very spotty. Like it'd be clear for 5 minutes, for 3 minutes it'd be really heavy rain and where you can't even see the road. It was not fun.
Not good. Now, look, you'll remember if you're listening, was it Monday, Tuesday? I don't know. Earlier in the week, we talked about this episode at the House Ways and Means Committee when Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, who's become quite a forceful and powerful and I think credible spokesperson for what I think otherwise without that voice would probably be not perceived as credible a tariff and economic plan. Is that fair? Fair?
Yep.
He's very good coming armed with the facts, and he's very nonplussed when they try to get after him.
He's clearly far upon the spectrum, high-functioning spectrum, right? No doubt about it. And I mean that in all the kindest ways. The guy is brilliant.
Yes.
Okay. And the way he just very measured and doesn't tend to lose his cool and stuff, I mean, he fights back, like you said, John. He's got the facts. I mean, this guy has like a digital library in his head, of the latest economic stuff. Remember, he referenced at one point, he referenced like the South Asia Times or something. Well, I read that every morning. Didn't you see the report out of the South Asia? Hello? Really? It's all I can do to make sure I'm squeezing the toothpaste and not the Brill cream onto the brush, I don't do Brill cream. There's not enough there to Brill cream. But, and then remember when Linda Sanchez, so they were in this hearing, and Linda Sanchez says, well, the price of eggs is crazy, and inflation's up, and people can't, and he's, well, no, you're wrong. And he would interrupt her, and then she said, excuse me, you can't do that. And I know we get talked over all the time. Okay, well, and everyone went,
we're a woman. We're women.
Okay.
Yes.
And then came this Stacey Plaskett, who is a delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, a Democrat, of course. And this is how the beginning of this happened during her little time when she had the floor.
And gas has gone up.
Ma'am, that's incorrect.
Excuse me. Let me get something straight with you first here. In this house, we don't interrupt individuals, and you're not going to interrupt my time.
A few moments later, and so this is when I saw this on a post on X. And I've become I'm almost like PTSD about telling you all about anything I see that's very like high impact. No, I'm not sure. That's got to be manufactured because now with AI, you can create these things that look like it's the actual person speaking. And I want to be cautious about that. It's like a video version of Photoshop, except like unbelievably slick. This is what happened. So after she was done with her time, another representative, this is what I saw on X.
Moments later.
The S&P is up on the year. Up.
It is up month by month.
No.
Excuse me, ma'am. It's my time.
Excuse me. We don't interrupt is what I was learned.
Gotcha, bitch.
Hit the dump. Hit the dump. Woo. Sorry, I missed that part. Are we good? Okay, good.
Yeah, we're good.
Woo. Wow, Drake. I haven't seen Drake.
Dave Chappelle about snuck in.
I
was going to say, I saw you do this last night.
I forgot about the end of that. I haven't seen Drake move that fast since a girl crossed his path that was a good looker. He almost decapitated himself the other day. Someone walked by the studio and had an attractive woman.
I got whiplash. I'll have to see a chiropractor.
So isn't that interesting? So listen to it again.
S&P is up on the year. Up.
It is up month by month.
No. Excuse me, ma'am. It's my time.
Excuse me. We don't interrupt is what.
Okay, so isn't that interesting? And so I didn't believe that he was basically correcting, and I wasn't sure who it was in the background that was interrupting him. Was he? So what happened here? I went to C-SPAN, ladies and gentlemen. I am your faithful, intrepid servant of the arbiter of truth.
Yes.
Wow, C-SPAN, are they still on the air?
Now, okay, Helene, I want you to vouch for me.
Yes.
How long is this entire testimony? What does this say? 4 hours, 34 minutes, and 33 seconds.
Yep.
I went through this entire hearing. I finally located this point, which was right at the end of the hearing, because I wanted to make sure. I thought this was beautiful of him. I mean, he said, whoa, wait a minute. You told me it's my time. No. You told me not to interrupt. It was brilliant. So, and guess it was apparently Plaskett who was interrupting him. Because what happened was, so I went back and I looked at the whole thing. And what happened was she finished her time. Then I guess the chairman or someone else had their time. And they said, well, no, you didn't give Mr. Bessent a chance to answer. So let me yield a little time to have him answer.
Oh,
so
classic.
During his answer, she interrupts him. Now, I can't confirm it was her, but this is how it unfolded. So that was actually him. When you look at the post on X, the words in his mouth aren't matching all the time. And I thought, oh, there's something fishy here. That is actually what was said. I monitored the C-SPAN 4 hours and 34 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Now, is that a truth seeker or not?
Why didn't Fox pick that up? That'd be interesting.
Now this is where Grok failed. I asked Grok. I went to Grok. I said, is it true that Scott Bessent in testimony in response to Plaskett, it happened to me again with Grok. I thought I was done, and she said, I can't really tell. There's no way. I don't have a transcript, whatever. I did it again. I remember I was on Grok, and I do this voice Grok.
Right.
And I thought I was done. I said, good night. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you, Grok. I don't know how to turn Grok off, apparently, because I went on to my other searching and prep for the program, and I said, hey, babe, what'd you do with my keys? Grok gets on. Hey, that's really nice to hear from you again. And I'm like, no, Grok, be quiet. Grok thinks I'm talking to it all the time now.
No, yeah, not good. Well, some people, that's true, But, it's interesting. Maybe, is it possible with artificial intelligence, they only mirror what is news, and they don't really go into the depth of a whole interview? You know what I mean?
Could Grok be biased?
So no, are only they're not super intelligent.
Yeah.
They only pick up the news items, so they didn't go through the whole C-SPAN and listen to it.
Well, they're not going to be looking for political hypocrisy.
Right. So I
should have said, where is the hypocritical? So what this proved to me a couple of things. First of all, it's good to go ahead, and it takes a lot of work to make sure that when you see something like this, because I thought this was nice. How come you didn't see this on the mainstream networks where he fought back at her? Right. I think it's good when people don't let representatives and congresspeople, as it was interesting as I watched most of this whole thing, one after another, they just grandstand.
Yeah.
These hearings have become really not investigative or truth-finding or really informational settings. It's an opportunity for them to create sound bites for their next campaign.
Yep.
Big dose of accusatory mixed in.
Yes. And just a lot of political, they might as well be on the stump, criticizing. If it's someone on their side who's testifying, they lay the laurel wreaths on them. Oh, you're so wonderful. If it's someone from the other side, it's just a bunch of political persecution that goes on. It's really disappointing. You didn't see anyone really trying to find out, really just trying to get to the truth, Yeah. And the other thing is, I think we are all now in an age where you're going to have to really be careful about what you believe and what you see.
Correct.
And how in the world you have to go to some depths to try to prove it. But, I don't know, John, are you using AI at all as either a starter, as just when you're researching something, or are you shying
most definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's good, especially on sports stuff. It's pretty accurate when you go there. It's like, hey, who held the batting title in 1999? That kind of stuff. But you got to stay on top of it, because especially as you get more local in your search, if it's a local news story or something, sometimes you better be checking your notes.
Yeah, you're right. Drake, you use it?
Oh, I use AI all the time. I used it last night to make a recipe for lasagna. I use it for recipes.
How was that different than what did it provide you differently than from a Google search, a regular?
I said I have this, and this.
Okay.
So, like, let's say that I don't have any ricotta cheese.
Okay.
I can substitute it for. It gave me a lot of substitutes. Or, like, let's say I don't have oil, I can go. Well, use this much butter. Or whatever. It is helpful with that.
Okay.
Wow,
that's good.
So, what didn't you have, and how did it work out?
Oh, I just went to the store afterwards, but it made me a clear shopping list.
There you go.
Yeah, it really saved some time there, old Drake, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm not using cottage cheese instead of ricotta.
But he is now fluent in Italian, thanks to AI.
Yes, he is.
Well, I thought Helene would find that interesting because, of course, she taught culinary and produced some 7-course meals with a big-time chef and had some fun learning that. You've learned about having to, and you do that, right?
Yes.
Where you have to substitute.
Well, and I know the big deal about restaurants, you will go under if you don't use everything in your cupboards and stop going out. And I'll be honest, I was not so good about that. Now I'm getting much better. Okay, I've got 2 little heads of romaine. I got to do this, and what do I have at home? And so you got to be frugal about it. But you can put something together that's amazing. But you got to be a little creative.
Yeah, and I'm the beneficiary of that. You do some great cooking. You've got this knack for making healthy things taste good, even with changing what would otherwise be an unhealthy ingredient here or there. Yeah.
So that comes from a history of, at a younger age, starving yourself and not understanding that you can really eat well and healthy, and it can taste amazing.
Yeah. All right, hey, let's step aside and at 6:52, we got to talk about Juneteenth. I don't know. I want to know everyone's feelings. It's Juneteenth, the federal, state, and local holiday, right? And city holiday, right, John? Everything shut down?
Yeah, I think everybody's pretty much out of there, but we're here.
We're here. Centuries of everything on Wake Up Missouri. 573-874-9390. What are your thoughts about a federal holiday called Juneteenth? We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay tuned.
This is Wake Up Missouri.
if you're not working in government, like a lot of these holidays, I think government workers do get. That's one of the perks of working in government. You're off because it's Juneteenth. That marks the end of slavery. That became the 12th legal federal holiday under the Biden administration. And on June 19th, 1865, Union troops freed enslaved African Americans in Galveston Bay and across Texas, some 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, by the way, 2.5 years ago, the president signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
That was a while back, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, they kind of got a raw deal on that one.
Yeah, I know. There's no doubt about it. When tectonic change is brought about in a society, well, we see it. We saw it here. Look, at a smaller level in Missouri, when Clean Missouri passed, then they had to do a Cleaner Missouri. Remember, they had to change it, the amendment. When the marijuana laws were passed, we're finding out now there's a lot of court battles because apparently a lot of people who were meant to benefit from that, smaller vendors, were really owned by bigger vendors, and so a lot of the things that were intended didn't happen, and now there's a lot of discussion. Amendment 3 is going to be maybe reworked. We don't know.
Right.
So, first, how many times when you do something totally new, let's say you've done flower arrangements, right, Helene? Helene's in for Stephanie.
Correct, yes.
First time you did a flower arrangement to put on the coffee table,
really stunk.
Well, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't
bad.
Okay, so the next time it got better and better.
You have to keep practicing, right.
All right. Well, the Constitution, can we all agree the Constitution was a revolutionary document, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
And we didn't quite get it right, but there was a provision in there that got it very right, called amendments, and there were things, and even that didn't quite get right until it got right. Okay. So and even at the foundation of this country, there was a loud and vocal group that wanted to abolish slavery, but then the 3/5 and all that. Well, then, and through the 13th Amendment, emancipation ended slavery throughout the United States, of course. So, I don't know. I just think that this was the righting of a major wrong. We just didn't quite get it. This is sort of like, you aim and you want to hit the bullseye. Well, okay, you're still on the target, but you're not near the bullseye. Right. And I think this got it right. I mean, it got it sort of right and didn't get totally right until the Civil Rights Amendment, if you want to argue that kind of an argument, which is probably fair.
It was a process.
You talked about the founding fathers. Benjamin Franklin was one who I think he was initially a slave owner, but became a big anti-slavery proponent back in the very early days of the country.
I mean, imagine yourself being someone who's of the Christian faith, and many of our leaders were, and you look outside your palatial plantation or your Mount Vernon or wherever you are, and you look out and you see the slave quarters and people living in squalor, and you go, well, something's not right about that. Yeah, it's just not right.
I'd say the worst part of it was that they tried to justify it through the Bible. Honestly, like a lot of the slave owners said, well, they had slaves in the Bible, and use it as an excuse to
that's no
treat
excuse.
humans as...
Right. And so I think that here, Ben writes, wow, my 6th great-grandfather was hung at the Great Hanging in Gainesville, Texas, 1862, along with 40 others accused of being abolitionists. Wow.
Interesting.
Man, that's profound. But I think I could argue that if there is something to celebrate, if you're going to have a celebration, you celebrate owning getting something wrong and then getting it right.
Right. Correct.
There's so much right about that kind of a sentiment. No?
Right. Yes. But it's the negatives they say that I've seen are, well, it's one day. Are we just going to talk about it one day? Is it a sentiment you carry the whole year? It should be.
Well, we'll see what Steve Bucci says about the sentiment of Iran and Iraq. on us over in the Middle East. No one better to do that than our friend Steve Bucci. And Colonel Bucci was, of course, is retired Special Forces, and both strategically and tactically, there's no one who knows more about what's going on in these kind of conflicts. And he joins us now at S. Bucci on X, by the way, a great Twitter feed to follow. Steve, what do you make of this, first of all, before we get into the nitty-gritty of should we drop the bunker buster or shouldn't he? What do you make of this apparent conflict of American intelligence, or did Tulsi get it wrong when she spoke, and Israeli intelligence? Who do we trust?
Well, first, a little nitpick, not on you, but on the whole conversation. If you really look at what Tulsi Gabbard said, she didn't say they were not trying to build a bomb. She said they haven't built a bomb. And that's true. Now, the other part, you remember, she's at the top of an institution there, the Directorate of National Intelligence, that is filled with leftover Obama people. For 8 years, they were deep into the intel community, using the intel community for their own purposes, and in fact, producing intel that was a lie to the United States about Iran.
Whoa.
So they could get the deal. All those people are not gone. They were there for 8 years. The first Trump administration, he really didn't get rid of hardly any of them because they were so burrowed in. And then you had another 4 years that was, frankly, even worse with Biden because he had no control over it. So she is presenting what those folks gave her as estimates, right? She can't just say, screw that, we're not going to do that. That's not her job. Her job is to present what the different organizations have provided to her for the decision makers. Trump, however, as the boss, doesn't have to follow those things. And I think it's really interesting, not that you guys are questioning it, but that the left is going, oh my gosh, he's believing the intel community or not believing the intel community. This is terrible. Remember how crazy they went when President Bush did believe the intel community and invaded Iraq?
Absolutely.
Because I was there.
Yeah.
So the intel is always recommended courses of action. This is what we think, sir, is going on, and this is what we recommend you do with it. The president ultimately decides what he's going to do, including taking into account the intelligence of other sources, like from other countries. And no offense to the American intel community, it is the best technical intelligence you will find anywhere in the world. It is not the best human intelligence, particularly with regard to the Middle East. The Israelis' human intelligence is so much better with regard to the Middle East than ours. It's almost ludicrous. We don't have any agents inside Iran. The Israelis apparently can set up factories and build drones in the middle of the Iranian countryside, and they get away with it. So I'm not saying just throw it all away, but we shouldn't be so shocked if the president considers all those things and then comes up with a decision that's different than what the announced unclassified version is coming out of the Director of National Intelligence.
Okay, that's big.
Absolutely.
That is extremely important news. I mean, I gleaned a whole lot from that. That's retired Colonel Special Forces Steve Bucci, who joins us on Wake Up Missouri with, like you say, you were there, you get it, you were in Iraq, and he joins us on Wake Up Missouri.
Colonel,
and I have to tell you this: I don't agree with David Petraeus on very much, but Petraeus basically said the same thing last night, and poor Jimmy Tapper was very frustrated because he was hoping Petraeus was going to say, oh, they're all in disarray, they're not listening, it's just terrible, and Petraeus gave basically a slightly less complex explanation than I just did, but look, that's reality, and the press doesn't have anybody that has any particular experience with dealing with the intel community. They act like they do, but they don't.
Colonel, what's your take on it? As it stands today, will the B-2s leave Whiteman with the bunker busters on them and head to Iran?
I believe they will. I don't know exactly when, obviously. And as I was just saying a few minutes ago, I don't know the technical methodology for using those bunker busters. There's a pattern that they have to drop when they're doing, as somebody said, they're not really just bunker busters. Those are mountain busters. And so they will drop more than one in a pattern to destroy that facility based on their analysis of the rock formations, that sort of thing. I think you will see the United States take out that particular facility that they've been targeting or been talking about because the Israelis cannot. They don't have the technology to do it, short of dropping nuclear devices, and I don't think they want to do that, and I don't think we want them to do it. I think the United States can plausibly say, we got nothing to do with regime change here. We're not going to war, but we're eliminating that capability from Iran because it is a potential existential threat to the United States. So we're just going to end it. And the rest of it, all that tactical stuff, taking out the rocket launchers, those sort of things, up to and including regime change. If that's the Israelis want to work on that, hey, they're our ally. We're not going to hinder them, but that's not the United States of America. Now, the Iranians will still go crazy and say, oh, it's all your fault. You did it. But I think that's a plausible policy line that not too many of the rest of the world is going to push back on very much because they're going to be pretty happy, one, that the Iranians don't have a nuclear capability and won't get one in the foreseeable future, and two, that the regime probably will actually change, and that'll benefit everybody, frankly, particularly the Iranian people.
Steve, avoiding mission creep has to be like among the top factors that is going through the president and his advisors' minds, because while most Americans agree about it, 70-80%, according to various polls, say, we do not want Iran. We agree. Let's not have Iran get a nuclear bomb. Okay, and so that's what you just talked about, helping thwart. But on the same token, I think if you were to do this in the same poll, say, well, how do you feel about us getting involved in an escalating, back and forth, boots on the ground war? Okay, here's the deal. The Iranian leader has said, woe unto America if you come after us. And if that's defined as dropping a bunker buster, at what risk are we of mission creep with this thread? We drop a bunker buster. He's true to his word, and he attacks our installations in Qatar, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, wherever else. And then is there a predetermined threshold of American casualties past which a president has to say, now this is war and we're in it? Is that a concern?
It's always a concern. Look, the Iranians have been threatening us with destruction for decades.
Yeah.
They have made threats against the sitting president of the United States, when he was out of office, and now they want to still kill Mike Pompeo from when he was the Secretary of State. These guys are, it's not like the terrorist end of it is going to change or has changed. That's not new. That was already there. It has nothing to do with whether we drop bunker busters on their mountain or not. They want to do that. The other part of it, they don't have any capability to do any of this stuff anymore. These are completely empty threats from a regime that is, by the minute, losing more and more teeth because of the gentle ministrations of the Israeli Air Force. And we should encourage Israel to keep doing it. It's in their interests. If they need more bombs, we should give them more bombs. If they need intelligence, we should give them all we got. But this idea that suddenly, because the Ayatollah, who is sitting at a table with a bunch of empty seats because the Israelis killed all the guys that used to sit in them, is sitting there thumping his chest, that is completely for domestic consumption. There is little or no ability in their military to do anything other than terrorist activities. And frankly, the people who were going to do those terrorist activities for them in the past were Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Syrians, the IRGC Quds forces there. They don't have enough IRGC Quds Force commandos to do all that much. That remember, this is a military that at the height of its power lost to the Iraqis.
Yeah,
okay.
that's right.
Back in the day.
Yes.
I forgot about
They
that.
got, so they're not 7 foot tall. This is not the Soviet Union at the height of its power. As we know, the Soviets weren't as tall as we thought they were then either. Again, I want to make sure people understand I'm not being cavalier. I'm not the kind of guy that let's all go to war. The people who go to war are my friends and my brothers and sisters. I don't want to go to a ground war in Iran. It's an enormous country with really horrible terrain.
Yeah.
But taking out the targets for the nuclear program is worth it. It's the appropriate thing to do. And we have sat and listened to these radical people who are destroying their own country, pulling out the eyes of female citizens in their country because they had the temerity to show their hair.
Yeah.
They're terrible people. These are not nice folks who just have a different point of view.
Okay.
And the folks that are wringing their hands and clutching their pearls, I'm sorry. We're a big country. Sometimes we got to do stuff. And
all right.
One of those times.
The last word from Steve Bucci
Told it like it
at
is.
S. Bucci on Twitter. Follow him. We'll continue following him, and we thank you, Steve, for being with us. Appreciate it.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, when we come back, Helene has some news. Before you take that cold plunge, you may want to listen to Make Missouri Healthy Again. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Wake Up Missouri.
So it's time for Make Missouri Healthy Again. And, you know, Helene's in for Stephanie, being our resident health and wellness guru. You heard us talk about this cold plunge, right?
Yes,
Where your body plunge. People are buying these big barrels that you can plunge into. And some people say, oh, that's really good. And
Great. And they're doing it some are doing it for weight loss. That was the test, to do it for weight loss.
But there's some news that may not be true.
No,
Tell us.
Because they did this test on people and they jumped in, and guess what? They were so hungry. Yes. Initially, the temperature goes down. Yeah. They were so hungry. On the average, they ate 200 calories more per day, and they gained weight.
It was an interesting study. They had volunteers that took... John, maybe you can be involved just to reproduce this study, because you need to reproduce the study to make sure it's valid. 30-minute dips in tubs set at 95 degrees, 79 degrees, and 61 degrees before an all-you-can-eat pasta test.
Right.
The colder the water, the increased hunger levels. Those in the iciest pool scarfed down over 200 extra calories.
I can also speak from being a swimmer, because I would swim in lakes, I would swim in pools for an hour, whatever, and I would run or I would bike. I was always more hungry after swimming, and over the summer I usually sometimes gain weight even though I swam a lot, because your temperature goes down.
Yeah. I remember that as a kid, being at the pool, swimming all day at the pool, and you couldn't wait to jump out and go eat the snacks and all that stuff.
So that just didn't pass the smell test when I saw that.
So there may be a little bit of some cardiovascular benefit in that. It does constrict your vessels and helps push blood to the central, part of your body and your circulatory system. But yeah, I mean, if at the end of the day you're putting on the pounds because you're eating more calories, I don't know that that's a good thing. This is a fad, right?
Right, it's a fad. Don't do it. Don't do it.
So, but if you eat more calories, you may find it difficult to do this test you found about maybe testing your longevity.
Okay, this is Make Missouri Flexible Again. Okay, so there's a longevity test now. They did it. It was just written up in European Journal of Preventive Cardiology. Anyway, on 3,500 men. Okay, and they did this flexibility test. The flexibility, and
was it flexibility or strength?
Flexibility and strength. Yeah. It predicts longevity. Okay, so you have to, and I did it. I tried it last night. You have to be in a standing position and go down to the floor without touching your knees or your hands or anything. You get a point off for doing that. Then, once you're down, you have to get up without touching your hands or your knees to get up.
Can you do that, Drake?
So that's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm a specimen, Randy. I can do anything you ask.
You might be able to. You are lean and aesthetic, as we call it. Now, here's the thing. I was worried. So Helene all of a sudden was on the phone with the life insurance guy yesterday wanting to buy life insurance on me.
I was not.
After she read this story. And then she said, hey, hon, why don't you try this?
Try this. So I got in the floor without holding anything, but I could not get up without getting up with my knees.
It's tough. Doc, hold my drink.
Yeah.
But it was a predictor, especially of 12 years later, they did the study, the same people, and they had a higher mortality. The ones the cardiology, they have heart disease.
The more help you need, the less likely you're. Okay.
Yes.
I've got a frost your bun story when we come back.
I think just local news.
You to watch the. I don't know how to call it, but it's such an uneven affair over there in Israel and Iran, right? I mean, we've got, as Steve Bucci, if you missed this interview, you can catch it later on the podcast with Steve Bucci, our national security expert, who is a special forces guy, was in Iraq during the height of that thing and knows all about these operations. And make sure you catch the interview, because I was really unclear that Iran was as weakened as they are. I mean, he made it crystal clear that their ability to retaliate as much as they're talking about is not near what they're saying it is. And I knew there's a certain amount of that saber rattling, but Helene, weren't you surprised?
Mm-hmm. Yes, very surprised. Yep.
Okay, that's Helene in for Stephanie Bell. And John Marsh, I didn't know that it was that crystal clear.
Well, I don't know. We've heard from the Israelis and their pressers that they've done on a daily basis. They are now really concentrating on going after the ballistic missile launchers and taking them out of the equation. So, yeah, I mean, Steve is right on the money about where this is going.
My only problem with the whole thing is I know I love Israel. I think it's great. But, is it possible they're a little biased to their point of view? Is it possible that is there a check on us, on their intel? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. I mean, because they, of course, are going to be hyper-aggressive.
It's not that they're doing anything wrong. It's the fact that they're saying the best for them. What is their more unbiased
What's in our
opinion?
interest?
Right.
Well, you're, I think, referencing what is a serious battle inside conservative/Republican circles, right?
Right.
I mean, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, they're all in. It's like, what you foolish Americans, the Iranians are going to come after you. Just help Israel do your bidding, do our bidding. And others are saying, no, we don't want any part of it. Tucker Carlson and others saying, no, we don't want any part of it. I don't know. Drake, where are you? You're a young guy in the conservative movement.
Well, the young people nowadays are just laughing in the face of Iran. So they have their military Twitter page where they tweet out like some really, we would call it cringy things like, oh, you will feel the pain, all that kind of stuff. And people in my generation are out there debating SEC football in their comments, and we're just making fun of them.
Oh, okay.
We have been like really disrespectful to them online. Okay. And it's been, and I feel like that's at least brought down their morale. Maybe they don't see it, but I mean, it shows that even the young kids don't care, and we don't think that they're
almost just disrespecting
stuff.
Them to say, like, you guys, what are you talking about?
Exactly. I mean, it's really funny. If you go on there, there'll be people who are talking about, like...
Which side is that? Are you on their official, like the...
It's like Iranian military, something like that, and they're, like, sending out... Well, the thing it's been compared to for the young kids out there is Fortnite. It's a game, and they would have events where, like... at a certain time on a certain day, oh, this big thing will happen. And like everyone's been comparing it to that and just making so much fun of them.
That's interesting. That's the way. But I mean, so are the young folks involved in this social media back and forth and sort of mockery because they're interested in what's going on and that's their way of expressing it? Or are they saying like, we don't really care. I just, I want to know.
I think they think it's funny, and it is. Don't get me wrong.
What happens if they get called into service?
Well,
yes.
Or their brother or sister in the military gets called in to go serve over there.
Well, they hope that. I mean, a lot of young Republicans and a lot of young people are very against war on both sides. Mm-hmm. I mean, the new wave of Republicanism is the, almost isolationist, where we should stay out of everything with the Freedom Caucus. There's not many young people who are more of the institutional Republicans that just want to bomb everything like me, right?
Here's an interesting compare and contrast on the text line 573-874-9390. And by the way, on Facebook we had a question. Drake, you asked a question because we were talking earlier about Juneteenth, because it is Juneteenth. And what do you think? Should there be a federal holiday? Right?
Yeah, I asked if it should be a federal holiday, and it's a lot of no's. Like out of the 17, I'd say probably 15, 14 of them are solid no's, just no. But there are a lot of people who are saying that, it's emancipation from slavery. It was a bad thing. And who doesn't like a day off, right? That's what Matt Tipton said.
Yeah.
And I agree.
I'm okay with this. I mean, this was a terrible wrong on generations of people, and it was righted. And I'm glad that we did that. I mean, I once again, America, not that we really led that. The Brits actually, I think, started that movement, but we led it after that. Okay, so here's the compare and contrast on this Iran, Israel, and where's the U.S.'s role in this. Ken says, thank you, Colonel. It's good to hear someone pointing out the problems with their own intelligence community, both willful and otherwise, and I would take that as an endorsement of the Colonel's basically saying, look, if we think there's going to be the ability and any will and way for them to really retaliate against us, not going to happen. And I think the Colonel is pretty clear. We know where he stands. Let's take out that nuclear thing.
Right.
Okay. Okay, then an unnamed texter says, after hearing your last guest, I'm glad he retired.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's good to hear both sides. Yes.
Terry says, Randy, it's a shame it took people with various kinds of college degrees to do expensive studies to find out what is good old-fashioned sanctified common sense. That's concerning some of the health things we were talking about.
I really believe you have to have a show of strength, and the United States is doing it. If you don't do it, eventually we'll be kicked around. So I think it's very important that we're on Israel's side.
Well, the other I think wild card in this whole bunker buster debate is apparently these are like new technology bunker busters. What was that mountain in Afghanistan when we dropped bunker busters on there back in the 2000s? Remember
they were what?
That was
they were like 5,000-pound bunker busters.
Yeah, these are
30,000-pound one like these. But
and they're like a 2-in-1, right? So one goes down and makes a hole, and the other one goes down, goes down that tube and makes a bigger hole. So apparently those have only been tested. Obviously, they've only been tested. They haven't been used in real application. And so the president must be asking, hey, what's the guarantee that you have 100% that this is going to work?
Right.
Wouldn't that be bad if it was like, oh, my goodness, like you light the fuse on the firework. I can't wait. We only have 3 more weeks till firework time.
Let's see if any work. Let's see if any work anymore.
Big boy mortar shells
They've been around for a long time in our house.
Okay, so I want everyone to get on our YouTube, Wake Up Missouri YouTube page, Facebook page, and take a look. So this is a medical device. Now, I talk a lot about my frustration with the cost of medical care and how it doesn't, and I know many of you are in the medical community. Maybe you're married to a person who is. Maybe you have a son or daughter, or brother, sister, mom or dad who is. And everyone who's in the community knows what's so broken in the community, right? We know how when you go to see the doctor, why the doctor doesn't spend time with you, why your expenses are incredibly high. Well, look, maybe it's a little thing, but I tell you, there are some stupid rules and I think it's a larger societal issue, and here I'll prove it. So this is a device. The other day, I was at an outreach clinic, and this is a device. This is a device called a Explora Curette, and we use this to do a little biopsy inside a woman's uterus when she's having irregular bleeding to make sure there's not uterine cancer. And it's a 3-millimeter little flexible plastic tube that's connected to a syringe, and you put this inside through the cervix into the uterus.
Right.
And you pull back on the thing, and you just take a little, and you do a little 10-second test, and you get a little strip of tissue. It causes some cramping for women. It's not like painless, but it's not. You get a lot of information with, some discomfort, but it's really a very useful test to help reassure us that there's not cancer going on. Okay. And if we find it early, it's curable with just a hysterectomy. So, okay. Flexible tube, right? Okay, sort of think about a pen cartridge, the old-fashioned, not the metal pen cartridge. So I'm ready to, it's like, hey, I see this patient coming in later. We're going to have to do a biopsy. And the nurse says, oh, Central Supply tells me we can't use this. It's expired. I went ape. I lost my cool. One of these puppies costs $125. This was at a small rural hospital where I do an outreach clinic. They come in cartons of 10 or 12. And we don't do these sometimes in smaller places, a doctor's office, for instance, that maybe not see a ton of patients but wants to have equipment there.
Right.
Medical facilities. This applies to gauze sponges in hermetically sealed packages where it's plastic on one side and sort of that, that hard to tear paper, wax paper sort of feel thing. And I'm like, this expired in May May of 25, May 2nd, 2025. Doctor, you can't use it. I said, what? We have to throw like 9 of these away? It's been in a nice, a controlled situation in the warehouse, not in the warehouse, but inside a building with air conditioning and humidity controlled. So I thought about this, and I thought, what in the world? Why can't we use this? I said, is it a sterility thing? How does a bacteria get in here to introduce an infection? No. So I AI'd it. I asked Grok, why in the world couldn't I use this? Because now we have to send this patient home because we don't have this device that's not expired. And Grok said, well, the engineers determined that it's possible that this plastic device could get brittle and it could break off within the patient. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking, now I know this seems like small peanuts, but I've run a hospital, and I can tell you, when they inspect you at a hospital, they will tell you to throw away gauze sponges that you may use in the emergency room if someone comes in with a laceration to just daub their wound while you're trying to inject some anesthesia before you sew it up. Gauze sponges.
Yes.
Throw away cases of them because they're expired. So why
go look in the dumpster behind the hospital at the Baxter boxes that are full of stuff?
Guess what? The military has a program, I found out, that they can use certain expired medicines even if they do testing on it, blah, blah. So here's my test. Why couldn't a doctor go to a patient and say, look at this. I'm flexing this thing. And we never have to flex it to use it. But look, are you willing, patient, to do this? And, it'll bring everyone's copay down. It'll bring, everyone. I'm telling you, if this kind of a common sense approach.
Right.
I'm not talking about using something that expired in 1960.
Right. Correct.
It makes, ladies and gentlemen, we have got to, and you know who's driving this? I'm sorry. I don't mean to impugn. There are a good reason to have plaintiffs' attorneys, but it has gone crazy. This is clearly just a liability, paranoid issue.
Med-mal.
It's ridiculous, and it's got to stop. And it takes away our autonomy. Yeah. Why can't you have a discussion with the patient? Why can't the patient say, hey, doc, I'll pay less for this procedure if you want to use that? Not a problem. Let's work something out. Oh, no, the system is here to protect you. Come on. Get over it. We're big boys and girls. Let us be thinking human beings that can make decisions. Crazy. John, what's in your world?
Lord Stanley's mug might be leaking champagne, and you can blame a Florida man.
Ooh. All right. The bubbly when we come back.
This is
for this.
Stanley Cup is a little worse for wear today, thanks to the Florida Panthers celebration of back-to-back titles. Bowl, the famous hockey trophy, is cracked and the bottom is dented. It's not the first time, probably not the last. Panthers won their second consecutive championship on home ice, beating Edmonton in 6 games, and the team, following decades of tradition, partied with the cup into the wee hours at Fort Lauderdale. Spokesman for the Hockey Hall of Fame said the keepers of the cup are taking appropriate steps and plan to have it repaired by the celebration parade. It's made out of silver and a nickel alloy, and the 37-pound cup, they say, is relatively fragile. Damage, nothing new for the 131-year-old silver chalice. It's been dunked in pools and even the Atlantic Ocean.
Whoa.
And mishandled by players and coaches. Tampa Bay Lightning dropped the cup during the boat parade in 21.
That's funny.
Yep, the Avalanche dented it on the ice the night they won the following year. But we will note that in 2019, the St. Louis Blues took good care of Sir Stanley's Cup, returning it in perfect condition.
Yeah, us Midwest.
Now you know the rest of that story.
Midwesterner, we keep make things right.
Their daddies taught them right. If you borrow the car, you bring it back with a full tank.
Right.
That's right. You want to blame somebody in this? A whole pack of Florida men with really funny last names. So there you go.
That's interesting. Wow. I didn't know that the thing had been all banged up over the years.
Yeah, I think the bowl on it's not even the original one. It's been clobbered so many times they had to build a new bowl for the cup.
Well, didn't J.D. Vance at a recent, what was it? He did something with some trophy, picked up something and it fell apart.
The college football trophy, yeah. Because he's an alum of the Ohio State. Right. We all can't be perfect. I really like J.D. Vance.
Oh, I do too. He's a regular guy. Yeah, he's my kind of guy. He's a family guy. He's brilliant. He's just everything.
Yeah.
You know, I could definitely vote for him at a later date.
He just seems like the kind of guy you can have a beer with, and yet he could talk about, international, geopolitical realities with, at the same time.
I mean, I feel like he's a Trump, but less like as a loose cannon, but he can still roast the media. I feel like that's why I feel like that was one of the biggest things that he brought to the campaign. It's like he was able to say what Trump couldn't say, but he did it in such a way that he would go up to the reporters and say, "Oh, maybe you could, we'll come over and talk to you because Kamala Harris isn't talking to you." Just
he would destroy
like
the media in a really very, without getting all hyped up, and just like stick the dagger in while he's smiling. It was just
so. There's a big difference between the Trump administration before and now. Now Trump has much more mouthpieces.
Yeah,
Pence was not a Vance. Mike Pence was not a Vance for him. He was not a spokesman like that.
Well, if you think about it, look at his cabinet members. They're all media people.
Yeah, so they can speak the language.
Not all, but I mean many.
And
of
it's
them.
not, even though I love President Trump, it's nice not always hearing him, hearing other people, say what he's had to say.
What is JD, 40, I think?
He's young.
He's 40 years old, if that.
That's a young guy.
Have you seen Hillbilly Elegy? What an amazing story.
Man.
I mean, this guy, you talk about, he knows what it is to grow up in squalor and make something of yourself. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
He said it took the Marine Corps to straighten him out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And a wife. His wife apparently was very influential too, right? Because they were...
And his Meemaw.
Yeah, and his Meemaw. Oh, boy. Whoever portrayed that in that movie.
She was great.
Great job there, yeah. Hey, you're listening to Wake Up Missouri. Helene's over there in for Stephanie. John Marsh, Drake Whitman. I'm Randy Tobler. It's June-19th. Make sure you jump on Facebook and weigh in on your comment. Good idea, bad idea, federal holiday. We'll be back.
Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team, and your host, Randy Tobler.
Welcome into the third hour of Wake Up Missouri. We are covering the stories of the day, awaiting President Trump's decision on whether or not to drop that bunker buster on the what I guess is probably the most important facility in the uranium enrichment program. Fordow, right? Is that what it's called, John? Fordow?
That's the one that's deep under the mountain.
They say half a mile. And so we're watching that. The Supreme Court yesterday with a decision that says that, hey, several states, this was about Tennessee, but I think this really impacts Missouri. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we'll be talking to the Attorney General in a in a few days to a week or more when we're able to get in touch with him about that. Because remember, the legislature passed the bill that said there'll be no surgery, there'll be no puberty blockers for gender-confused adolescents.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. So, but that's Helene in for Stephanie Bell, Helene Tobler. And I want to ask you something about that because we had a text from at 573-874-9390. Other big stories, the Fed kept a pause on any interest rate decrease. Interestingly, if you look at the pauses and the decreases there were several months of decreases. I looked at a chart the other day. Several months of decreases before the 24 election because they wanted the economy to look better. That's what people would say.
Right.
But the Fed is completely independent.
Well, absolutely independent.
Yeah, everything.
Politics.
Yeah, absolutely.
John's nose is growing like Pinocchio as he says that, yes. No, it's true. You could look at this chart and all throughout 23 into early 24, pause, no change. And then all of a sudden, when interest rates were tremendously high, and all of a sudden then, they decreased the rates. And that's when Biden was touting how inflation was coming down and, the economy was soaring and everything.
Right.
It's very, I don't know. I'm not saying.
Do you think Powell is biased? You think he's biased?
I don't think Powell. Well, look, if Donald Trump. If Trump was dissing you all the time, could you avoid being biased against him?
Yeah.
Trump has this knack of getting under people's skin, right?
He does.
And when they have a little power, and like you say, John, they truly do have a lot of power that Trump really can't control. He can talk all he wants, but they do control a lot of power of this economy.
You get the vibe from the chairman that he is above all this. He is strictly the expert economist,
Absolutely.
And he's above all the minions.
Just like Jim Comey and John Brennan and Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sotomayor, all of them. Absolutely objective. Come on, we're human beings. I don't care who you are. You try to be objective, you try to check it, but it doesn't always happen.
What would be the worst thing that could happen if he brought it down 1% right now? The interest rate. I mean, tell me the worst.
Well, inflation.
Could it just
people would start borrowing more, spending more on credit cards, and borrowing would go up, and then potentially inflation would rage again.
Okay,
right?
But then people are buying more because the interest rate went down. So
right, but
you're saying
buying,
because they don't have enough money to pay for it, they'll put it on credit.
But whenever there's more buying, and assuming that the supply doesn't increase, then the demand does. You'll find prices go up, right?
Okay.
If there's only 2 dozen eggs in the store and people have a demand for 10 dozen eggs, and now they can borrow money to buy those eggs, they're going to buy them. The people who are selling the eggs are going to raise the price, right?
Okay,
because there's more demand than supply.
So what's the perfect environment to lower the interest rates? What would be the perfect environment for Powell to lower the interest rates?
Well, his big claim has been they wanted to see the growth of inflation rate down, 2%.
They want it to be 2%.
Wasn't his line.
That's their goal.
Okay.
And they want unemployment at what's their target unemployment? Is it 3 or 4%? I think.
Yeah, 3. I think.
Yeah, 3%.
Okay.
So when they get there, then it's nirvana.
Okay, I see.
And on the way, if they see that inflation is slowing down,
got it.
They might consider that. But I think especially in this inflammatory environment with oil prices up, when oil goes up, everything else goes up because the transportation, the manufacture of those goods, the distribution all goes up. So that drives prices up, right?
Okay.
Which means inflation. And so they're not going to make it easier to borrow money to buy that stuff.
And Helene said 1%. We're lucky to get them to even talk seriously about a 0.25% of a drop.
Just wishful thinking, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Now, but I'm going to ask you, Helene, because this story about the transgender thing came out, and then I was talking about, we talk a lot about Trump and reducing federal spending and DOGE canceling contracts and this and that. So we have a listener who says, what do I say to my daughter-in-law about the Trevor Project not being funded? I just want to sound halfway intelligent when I defend the non-funding. So I looked up the Trevor Project. You know what that is? That's a specialty suicide hotline for LGBTQ plus people, right?
Right.
I'm sympathetic to that.
Yes.
You know what I would say, Paula? And I do not mean to be flippant about this, but maybe you've heard by now. We can talk about current problems, and we can put a Band-Aid on that, and we can fund this, or I can say, hey, go to your local pastoral counselor. There's probably some private organizations doing this. The basic question here, though, is there's a lack of mental health care for teens who are troubled.
Right.
There's a lack of mental health care for adults that are troubled. Right?
Yes.
I just got done talking about having to throw away $125 simple, absolutely pristine, perfect device because the companies have convinced the federal government that, it may break off inside the patient. It is more flexible than Drake, who we just found out can actually sit down and stand up without helping himself.
Yes. You got to post that.
That's that's a sign of a healthy guy.
Yes.
We're going to do that.
Yes.
I've got it on video. I'm going to post it on our Wake Up page. But my point is, Paula, do this. There are suicide hotlines. Tell your daughter-in-law there are privately funded resources that can be accessed. But on a larger scale, take the time to email, call your representatives at the state, but especially the federal level, because the federal rules rule all. And the private insurers follow the federal rules. Tell them to get off the back of healthcare practitioners. There are so many ways that if things were deregulated in a sensible way, if stupid rules like expiring gauze pads and totally, there's nothing biologic about this device that if people didn't need to check so many boxes, Paula, if mental health professionals didn't have to dot every I and cross every T and protect their butt from medical malpractice because they don't want to give a potentially harmful antidepressant to someone because if they do and they don't do this and that, they might get sued and their career and their life is ruined.
Right.
There has to be some sensible management to where the doctor-patient relationship is reestablished again.
Yes.
There are people, Paula, that want to help your daughter-in-law or her daughter or son or whoever's confused here. People are so caught up in the business and the bureaucracy and the regulatory jungle of medicine, not to mention the expenses that get drained away to answer claims that are denied ridiculously.
Right.
I had one yesterday. I got a guy who's got a knee that's bone on bone. He got an arthroscopy, and he takes a maximum dose of a non-steroidal like a ibuprofen, but a prescription one. And he takes it twice a day. So I send in a prescription because it's going to be about 2 months before he can get his knee replaced. And the guy, he can't sleep. He's taking CBD at night. He's a good guy. He's active, I send in the prescription for 90 days rather than 30 days and renew it 30 days. Now I have to work for another 20 minutes on a pre-authorization because his insurance company, don't you know, they know better than I do about why. Of course, there's some risks for this medicine. I know this guy like the back of my hand. We've talked about that. If you get belly pain, it might be an ulcer. You got this other issue. Keep an eye for that, but it'll be a temporizing thing. They tell you on the one hand, don't prescribe opioids. But on the other hand, don't prescribe the non-steroidal. Oh, no, we'll let you do it if you ask permission and if you fill out this form and upload the records and everything. And I'm going to spend a half an hour on that. I can't afford it. We've got to start up a little practice, our body of health practice. I can't hire 20 people to file these claims. I do it myself. Maybe my daughter helps.
2 daughters.
Well, I think it's one of those things, too, Doctor, that you've talked about it so many times that you're not on the air recommending that people go to the medicine cabinet and drag out the 2-year-old antibiotics that are past their EXP, right?
No, I'm talking about a medical device there is no reason that you, and look, even if there was some quantifiable risk, if the engineers at the company that manufactured this product said, well, if this was stored in a warehouse and if it was, and here's the aging curve and the brittleness quotient, and, the brittleness really goes up at 1 year after expiration. But until then, it's a slight uplift. I'd like, dear patient, you've delivered 3 babies. Slipping this puppy into your uterus is not a big deal. It's going to be in and out, not a big deal. But if you don't want to take the risk, that's fine.
Right.
It's fine. If you needed this biopsy, I would use this device on you yesterday.
And I would put my hand up and say, yes, it would be good.
But I'm told by the plaintiff's attorneys that you cannot sign a waiver that says, I know the inherent potential risks and I've decided to use this. Right? My point is, ladies and gentlemen, we have lost all common sense in this country, not only in the medical realm. How many of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about? Whether you're a roofer, a contractor, or whatever, and you got the people who have to deal with all due respect to inspectors, building inspectors. There's common sense safety rules, and then there's stupid. Well, 1 in a million years, we might have a wind blast that gives a polar vortex at the time when the temperature is this and the sun's shining and the moon is out in Arizona, and we've got to protect against it. And so you need to spend another $10,000 to do something.
I remember a story, I don't know if we did it or I saw it somewhere, on a med-mal case that was against an emergency department of hospital for them using sterile gauze pads that were past their expiration date, and the big take on it was because the adhesive wasn't as sticky as it should be.
Oh, boy. I believe it.
And that
I
was
totally
a malpractice case.
But
look, I've got a great safety record with patients.
You do.
We don't do reckless things. Yeah. It's common sense, and it's a discussion with people to make mutual shared decisions to say, hey,
and that's what we're doing.
This is a reasonable thing.
That's what we're doing with direct primary care, having that relationship. Yes.
Yeah. So we don't deal. We deal with it as little as we have to, but I don't send a bill to a insurance company because I don't want to argue with them about it. They just capriciously deny stuff. But look, Jackie, if you want help on a larger sense, tell the federal government to get out of the doctor's office. We'll be back with the market report after this.
You're listening to
I hear the morning bell, and it is time for that report. Stephanie's out today on assignment. She'll be back on Monday. Yesterday, the Dow Jones, the major indices were sort of flat to up a little bit. Dow Jones, SP 500, about a little less than 0.1% down. NASDAQ was up about 0.1%, and oil continues to go up and up and up. Of course, that's no surprise. Anytime there's unrest in the Middle East, we can count on that.
Yeah.
Have you noticed prices going up at the pump? I have.
Yes.
Okay, all you folks in Boonville, don't punish us by saying, oh, it's so cheap over here. What is it? Gasoline's always cheaper over in Boonville. I don't know what's going on around there. Maybe the casino owns those stations. They're trying to attract people.
Oh, yeah.
Could that be?
The fix is in.
Yeah, I don't know. And the futures are down this morning as well. And let's see, we talked about Fed Chair Powell, and they talked about maybe a couple. So if in case you're just joining us on Wake Up Missouri, Helene's in for Stephanie. I'm Randy. There's John and Drake as well. Fed Chair Powell said yesterday, we're going to keep a pause on we're not going to change the interest rates, the federal funds rate, but we are hoping maybe a couple more opportunities later this year. That's what he telegraphed.
Okay.
So, that I guess that's maybe a little encouraging. But the markets right now are sort of holding their cards close to the vest, not knowing really which way things are going. I don't blame investors for sort of doing that. Mortgage rates continue to be sort of, fluxing around what is a lower than previous level.
Israel, Iran still weighing heavily on the international markets, and they're speculating.
So what happens with, I don't know enough about Bitcoin, but when this kind of stuff is happening and we're in kind of a holding pattern, does Bitcoin go up? People buy gold and Bitcoin more?
Gold is going crazy.
Gold is going crazy, I know.
Gold has gone absolutely crazy. If you have any gold chains, watch out if you're out and about. I would think that'd be the next step. Instead of, someone pickpocketing you, they'll pull the chain off of your neck or something because gold's gone crazy. Here's some news that hasn't been widely reported, but yesterday, the Social Security Retirement Trust Fund, if you're in your 40s or 50s, this is impacting you.
Yep.
The trust fund Social Security fund may be depleted in 2033. And this is, a lot of this news is coming out on the heels of the tariffs and what they're projecting that may do to the economy and so forth. So some of this is projection. At that point in 2033, only 77% of benefits would be payable to basically keep it fueled. So if you're planning on Social Security as a large portion of your retirement income, I think you need to be cognizant of this. This is one of those, third rails that no one's going to touch. But at some point, you have to recognize the reality. This is the people that look at this say that this is bad. So the other thing that came out was Medicare's Hospital Insurance Trust Fund.
Yeah.
After 2033 will not be able to pay. That's 3 years earlier than projected.
Okay.
So, you're looking at shortfalls in just a few short years, right? Last time I checked, it's 2025. You're talking about 8 years, guys.
Can't we start, increasing the age at least, just maybe a year or so, just to offset it a little bit?
I'm saying look for a tax increase. There'll be a tax increase to pay this. I think that's the only way they're going to.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And no one's going to like it. But you'll love winners and losers, and we have one from inside our own studios here when we come back on Wake Up Missouri.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know.
A day ahead of myself. Tomorrow's normally winners and losers, but we have such a winner. You know, when you work, I don't know if you guys have figured this out by now, but I have this tremendous, almost fanboy worship attitude about people that do what they do extraordinarily well. I don't care if it's the elevator operator in the old days that could land it right. Yeah, I don't know. For many of you, you're too old to remember. You're too young to remember that. But elevator operator. If it's someone who is cleaning the tables at a restaurant, and they do an extra. I appreciate greatness. Well, now we have a guy that does that with the great aplomb and was recently awarded for his greatness here at Zimmer Communications, and he's in creative services, and he touches everything creative. His name's Josh Ryan. He joins us now. Josh, welcome in.
Good morning, friends.
Wait a minute. There you go. I don't do what I do
good?
greatly. Okay.
That's okay. I didn't clear my throat before I came on the air, and I know better than that.
I don't do what I do greatly. I'm not used to turning on and off microphones with these musical chairs. Okay, so notice the compare and contrast. You just saw poor performance, and now you're going to hear great performance. So, Josh, tell us about the award you won and sort of the organization, what the Mercury Awards are, because you won a Mercury Award. You're our winner of the day today. We'll do winners and losers tomorrow, but you're going to be the winner because you were a winner. Tell us what you won.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on the show.
Thanks for being in.
It's an honor to be here and to be asked to talk about this. But yeah, we were able to, a couple of weeks ago, we won the Radio Mercury Award for best single spot in the United States. And what the Radio Mercury Awards are is it's put on by the Radio Advertising Bureau. And what they do is get together, and you have to go through a panel of 40 first-round judges and 10 final judges. Now, these are all people that work in creative, what we do, right? And you're talking some of the biggest ad agencies in the country. You're talking about like DDB Chicago and High Dive, some of the places you would know their work. You may not know the agency, but you know their work. We were lucky enough to go again. You're in the room with the people that do Geico and Progressive.
Wow.
I met the lady several years ago at the Radio Mercury Awards that came up with the Motel 6 campaign.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Tom Bodett, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Okay.
I met the lady that came up with that. So these are the people you're talking about.
Wow.
And we were able to secure a victory. We were the only non-national company to win a Radio Mercury this year, which is pretty wild. But yeah, for Steve's Pest Control, I wrote an ad with two bugs going head-to-head in a battle rap. That was the winning spot. That won last year as well. I had written one, so that campaign has now brought two home. And then in 2022, I was able to secure our first one for an ad for Steve's Pest Control.
Let's listen to that. This is from 2022. This was the first win.
This is a list of things that suck. Fat-free cream cheese. Having to use the bathroom while stuck in traffic. When the bottom of your hard-shell taco collapses. And having to answer 36 questions before pumping your gas.
Debit card, yes. Do I know my PIN? Would you like a car wash? It's 10 degrees out. Do I like my mother-in-law? I just want to pump my gas!
But inching their way slowly to the tippy top of the suck list are ticks. Disease-carrying, hard-to-find, blood-guzzling, nasty ticks. You know what doesn't suck? Having a friend in the pest control business. Steve, from Steve's Pest Control. And although he can't protect your bagel from the evils of fat-free cream cheese, he will make sure those creepy-crawly, teensy-tiny ticks are removed. Sorry, ticks. Sucks to suck.
Hi, this is Steve from Steve's Pest Control. From mosquitoes to bed bugs, roaches to termites, we're going to solve your pest problem. I guarantee it.
Now you got a friend in the pest control business, Steve's Pest Control.
Man, that is genius. What would you? I mean, I think by definition, creative is not formulaic.
No,
but is there a pattern to how these things develop? Because you lead a team that's fabulous, and I noticed you said we won that, so that's true.
100%. Well, I mean, I say that all the time. Like, the people here, you guys, I'm in the same building with a lot of very talented people, and what I always say is, you're going to look like a clown if you don't come in here and work your butt off.
Yeah.
And that's a credit from top down in this company, the amount of people they've accrued that are very talented, you guys included. But
it's contagious.
Yeah, it really is. And so I don't ever want to come in here and not do my best work and not, I want to make audio too that people are like, ooh, Randy, you've got a lot of stuff that's gone viral. You guys talk about topics and things. In my world, it's people going, do you do the Steve sets? You do those? That makes me happy, right?
Yeah.
And so
it's cool. But I noticed the elements that I heard there was things that everyone has experienced, right? But somehow you translate that into the sponsors, vibe, whatever they're doing. That's genius.
Thank
it's
you.
cool.
It's to me, it's just about finding that relatability. Like I've had more people tell me about the gas pump thing. They hear about the gas pump part, and people now in this building are like, every time I pump gas, I think of you now. But that gets frustrating, right? And so I was just trying to list ticks physically suck blood. So I just took it to the next level, like, well, what are things in life that suck? And so I just tried to hit a bunch of those. And then if you can get people in the first 3 to 5 seconds and grab their attention, now I have you.
Yeah.
And then it's my job to tell a story that's entertaining enough to get you to Steve's Pest Control. And so that's kind of the process.
And it does really, and I'm a paying customer of Steve's Pest Control. And I tell you, they do deliver on the kind of quality that quality ad promotes, right? Because when you hear that kind of an ad, if you're a vendor or a sponsor and that's the ad that's being produced, it does sort of command a lot of obligation, right? I mean, you're going to do it. And Steve delivers. He delivers.
100%.
John Marsh?
Yeah, Josh, tell the backstory. The one I enjoy so much is a couple years ago, I'll use the word, you got hosed and didn't win it. You were so motivated, you started writing the bug rap on the plane coming back from NYC.
Yeah, so that was an interesting one. Josh is, there we go. Yeah, we had some communication things there. Go ahead, Josh.
I think we're good. You got me?
Yes.
Go ahead, John.
No, I was just saying that your backstory you could maybe tell real quick. It was a couple years ago when you kind of got hosed and you wrote the bug rap on the plane coming back.
Oh, that's funny. So that's inside baseball, and I like telling the story. In 2024, we won our second Radio Mercury Award.
Okay.
Because we lost in 2023. I didn't think we should have lost. So on the plane back from LaGuardia to St. Louis, I wrote a battle rap in 2023 on the plane because I was angry.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, okay, we'll just do better then. And then we ended up winning that first one for the battle rap in 2024 and then this year again to finish the campaign. So, yeah, Marsh is right. That was me being competitive creatively, but I think that's a good thing.
So I have a little tip for you that you may want to incorporate somehow. Because I found it hilarious. Helene was breaking up. Our team yesterday was breaking up. Everyday things that happen to you that you have permission to use this. So once a week, we have a nationally known consultant that listens to the program and says, hey, you guys could have done this better. Why don't you try that out? Wow, great job there. Not so good job there. We get a lot of that when I'm on. Oh, let me tell you. Oh, boy, do we get a lot of that.
Way.
I'm serious. And so the meeting usually occurs after we've done the promotion recording for the next day. And usually I have to, because I'm an older guy, when that, what happens to older guys, you have to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom. Peter, our program director, is with the national consultant who's online. Drake's in the room. Stephanie is heading down to some lawyer thing she's doing. Everyone's waiting, and I know they're waiting. And normally it's like I do my thing and I come out and we start the meeting while they're doing their small talk. I didn't show up for about 3 minutes. You know why? After I did my thing, I couldn't get my zipper up. So I tucked my. Now I wear dress shirts. Yeah. I wear dress shirts because I got to go to the office.
Randy always looks very sharp.
Okay. And I got to look. I mean, everyone. It's a very casual environment here, but I wear a tie and a shirt because I got to go to the office and I want to look like a. If you look like a doctor, people think you're good, and it keeps them fooled. How
hey, look good, play good.
No, I like to look professional. What had happened is normally when you get a piece of clothing stuck in a zipper, you can sort of just up and down it and make it work.
Typically, yeah.
For the life of Pete, I could not get it to work. And the more, you've all been there, guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I could not get it to, and I'm like, do I want to walk out here? There's a lot of women around, and I've got flies down.
You know where that would work really well, Randy? You know where that would, if you had like a streaming service or something and we were doing an ad, feel stuck, or like a mobile company.
Yeah.
And then you just find things that are irritating as all get out when they get stuck. There it is. Like, see, you found it. You got the creative process down.
I finally
is
got
your zipper stuck? Steve will fix it.
I finally got it. You know what it was that made this particularly vexing? It was the washer label on the tail of the shirt, which is something about the slipperiness of that and the silk.
Very silky. Yeah.
Oh my God, I could not get it loose. And I'm thinking, and the harder you try, the worse. And then, have you ever had this where you try so hard that you break the zipper?
Oh,
yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So we've all been there.
Yeah. don't get stuck in a pest control contract, right? Like, you just did it.
There you go.
Yeah, you nailed it.
You can use that for
Thank you very much.
You're very
Okay.
welcome.
Funny.
Thank
So
you.
maybe next year we'll come back and you can, like, sign the Radio Mercury that wins with the stuck zipper.
Yep, and you can be, if you've got a problem with your ticks or your bugs, don't worry. Steve's will zip it up for you. There
Love
won't
that.
be any more
Yeah.
problem,
Yep.
right? You got a problem with flies? Oh my God. I think we got a commercial right here. I think we
do. Randy, I'm just going to walk out of the building. Like, I'm done today. Just going to go grab a box for my office, and you can start doing the Steve's.
Hey, there was no copay for that either. Think about
One
that.
of my favorite things was when on one of your commercials when the reporter asked about ticks, and he says, how many ticks are? There's like 8 million, 10 million.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I thought that was so brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
That was so neat.
Do you want to hear a really quick, do you have time for a very fast
Sure.
story on that
Sure.
one? I'm sure people have heard that one. That one is called Press Conference.
I love that.
So that ad started with one idea, and it was a reporter finding out the truth about how many termites are under your home getting sick. That was my idea. Like, because I started doing my own research when I was writing the ad. I'm like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, ew.
Ew.
So I started with the noise that's made, which is graphic and gross, but it catches your attention.
Yeah.
Sure.
It started just from that noise, and then I built out the press conference around that.
That was
Because
it
that
was
was the punchline
brilliant.
to me. Like
that was amazing.
Well, and if you listen to that ad really closely, you'll hear the cameras and the photography go, wee.
Yeah.
The mic stops, everything stops, pause.
Yes.
And then everyone starts throwing chairs and screaming.
Not only is the concept beautiful, but there's
Thank
a
you
lot
very
that goes
much.
into actually producing it. That's a whole nother thing, right? The thought is one thing, and the written thing is another thing, but producing it audially is another thing.
100%. That's what I love here. From concept to finished commercial, they let us do it all back there, and so we've sharpened our skills.
We
a lot
love
over the
Josh,
years.
and we
Thank
love
you guys.
his creative team, and we're thankful for you coming
I'm glad
in.
you guys get entertainment out of commercials,
Oh
and I
my
hope the
God.
listeners feel that too. So.
Every single time I listen to every bit of that
That's
commercial.
really awesome of you guys. Thank you.
Great. And that same genius accrues to everyone that advertises here.
Hey,
with
you
Zimmer.
guys set the bar. I mean, I meant that when I said that at the top. Like, you guys set the bar.
Yeah.
I'm just following along.
Yeah, and for anyone who wants to sponsor this or other programs in the Zimmer Network and Zimmer Nation, that's some of the great
We got an ad
talent.
about flies.
That's
Josh helps keeps the lights turned on and keeps us laughing as well.
Yeah, well, I think it's time to zip
funny.
this interview up. We'll see.
There it
Okay,
is.
that's enough.
All right, thanks, Josh.
Thank you guys.
Josh.
Time
Congratulations.
flies.
Congratulations.
We'll wrap it up with leftovers after this. Stay tuned.
This
Fun, wasn't it? It was
That
fun.
was.
Boy, just being around people like that are so creative is just inspiring.
Man. Wow.
Great, and a great human being as well is Josh. So it's a lot of fun. So let's look into the leftover. Pull over the refrigerator. Here's the leftovers. What do you have, Helene?
Okay, so it's a sad leftover. But Ann Burrell, I don't know if anybody knows Ann Burrell from Food Network. She's 55 this week. I think she died on Tuesday. Yeah. Very creative lady. I mean, I watched her 10 years ago. The reason we on Thanksgiving have cornbread stuffing is because of her.
Yeah.
I watched her 10 years ago. And then she was on Worst Cooks of America, and she just died of a cardiac arrest.
Yeah, 55 years old.
55 years old. And I just, a very talented, and everybody knows, we have a little inside ball on the restaurant business, that it's a tough business. So she
started in Top Chef, right?
Yeah,
as a sous chef.
As a sous chef, right. And she owned her own restaurants too. So then she's so funny. She's comedic. So she's an amazing cook, but she's funny. So she'd be doing these secrets of a restaurant chef, and she'd give you secrets, but she'd be telling jokes the whole time. She's just so. And then she was the top worst cooks of America.
Worst cooks in America.
I didn't like to watch it anymore. It was just people doing stupid stuff. So guess what she was doing? Monday night, she kind of gave up on Worst Cooks. She was doing stand-up comedy in New York City.
Interesting.
She wanted to do that, and she died that night.
It was like Second City in Brooklyn.
Second City, she wanted to do a different
Here's a little
deal.
bit of her.
Celebrity chef Ann Burrell.
So thank you for coming. Look at this gorgeousness. Oh, yes.
Questions are now being raised about what may have led up to the death of the 55-year-old chef who was found dead in her home in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, yeah. Hello, beautiful.
Known for her signature hair.
She had that wild
spiked
blonde
hair.
hair.
And she was really very, she was overweight.
Yeah.
But then, when she died, she was super skinny.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen her like that, so I don't know.
So we don't know what caused her death, whether it was just an unfortunate early cardiac event in a young person. 55 years old is young for a cardiac event.
Yeah.
In a woman, it's really not until you're 60, 65 do we worry about it being a young. I mean, obviously it's never good, but from a family history standpoint. Right. But I tell you, if anyone has a history of heart disease, bypass surgery, strokes in young, men under 55,
our mom and dad,
women under 60,
absolutely.
You probably ought to ask your doctor to start looking deeper into your cholesterol profile. Some other risk factors that may be there. There are some deep dive lipids that now are emerging that are genetically determined. And there's some new things. And Dr. Fairlamb, who was with us here earlier, he's doing some research into that. So if you have a family history like that, use this as a little bit of a stimulus to, address that with you and your brothers and sisters and, maybe your kids with your doctor. Ann Burrell, a big loss to the culinary universe. John, what do you have?
Well, on this June-19th holiday, we get word out of the Chiefs that a former NFL defensive back is suing the club.
What?
For wrongful termination from his job as director of player engagement. Ramsey Robinson accusing the franchise of discriminating against him because he's black.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Been with the Chiefs for 9 years.
Aww. Speaking of the Chiefs and the Royals, now, they've got this bill was passed. The governor signed it. Have we heard anything from their owners as to a commitment to now stay in Kansas City? Have we heard anything?
We did not from Clark Hunt. Clark Hunt said he was happy that it passed, the owner of the Chiefs, and said, but he wasn't committing to anything. And we had some lawmakers saying, hey, what about this June 30th deadline that we were talking about to get a yay or a nay on this? And nothing yet.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't that when the Kansas deal went off the table? I thought.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll have to see. That's a wrap on today's program. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for being with us. Thanks, Helene.
That was fun.
Sitting in for Stephanie. John Marsh there. Thank you, John and Buddy Drake. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a great one.